Are you ready to make NYC more affordable?
Yes.
Even though none of you pay your own rent anyway?
Yes.
Do you guys hate your parents?
Yes.
Even though they paid for your college education where you learned all these ideas?
Yes.
Are you ready to get rid of all Zionists in New York City?
Yes.
Even though, of course, the majority of them are Jewish, but we'll call them Zionists?
Yes.
Are you ready to not arrest violent criminals in the streets of New York?
Yes.
But we will arrest Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu?
Yes.
Are you ready to turn NYC into San Francisco?
Yes.
Are you ready to take power away from corporations and billionaires?
Yes.
And instead give that power to politicians to rule over you by force?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Are you ready to eliminate luxuries in your life like matcha tea, smoothies, and hot yoga?
No.
Are you ready to pay your fair share and higher taxes?
No.
So it's only other people's money that we're going to use, not yours.
Yes.
So you got a mayoral candidate.
Wow. You know, it's funny. Jimmy Dore, celebrating this, said there will be no place for Zionists to hide. Even in New York, they'll have to hide in airports now. This is everybody's friend Jimmy Dore celebrating the nomination of the Muslimist, Islamicist, communist mayor of New York.
Well, good times. Good times.
Yeah. I'm glad Jimmy Dore is fighting for the United States. What a schmuck. What a complete. Well, we've seen so many people become schmucks in the last month. The list is just growing longer and longer. This brilliant piece of comedy here showing, you know, I said to you yesterday, I watched this 3-year-old episode with Adam Carolla and Bill Maher, and Adam Carolla was talking about his kids at one point, and he said, my son listens to everything I say. He understands that I'm the smartest guy in the room, being his father and older. My daughter, however, has been captured by society. And every single thing I attempt to tell her, she says, but they say otherwise. I'm doing what they say. And that started in COVID, kept going, and there's nothing he can do about it because the daughter has been captured. But what he was explaining to Mar was this was under his own roof, this radical delineation between two siblings.
Not
and
only
him
siblings,
being the parent.
twins.
That's right.
So,
I mean, what a social experiment this is that he's sitting on and now getting divorced, apparently, or is divorced. I'm not sure what the status is.
Yeah, it's. I think it's being battled out. He has a good chunk of change that's being fought over.
You're saying she wants it, or?
I think that she's going to get a bit of a piece. And in fairness,
how old are these kids? Maybe they're adults already. I mean, maybe there's no child
they're
support.
adults. So
right.
I think they're both 18. But no, I'm saying that she probably will get it. And in fairness, she's been with him since, before he really got successful. Like he was still hustling around.
So basically being with someone and calling them a douchebag is okay, simply because you're with them.
No, I mean, she did help out.
I mean, I'm making this up. I have no idea what their relationship
right.
is.
She runs all of his businesses.
No, I know.
So, yeah,
but it's in California. This, as I've said to you many times, this has led to the demise of many of the women who contested these divorces because the men realized, as Robert Blake did, that he couldn't live on 50% less of his stabilized income and trips to Europe and everything else. So he asked everyone in LA if they could kill his wife.
Well, Mark, he just was fetching his gun that he forgot in the car.
Right. But I'm just saying
he's not. What's wrong with you?
He's not alone. I mean, there are others because California law says that the woman, for simply hanging in there, gets 50% of every cent you've ever made. And this has led, like many Marxist laws, has led to the demise of the women that they're trying to protect. And yet another ironic plot twist.
You know what I love, though, kind of secretly, is there's a lot of beach bums that manage to marry in and pull their 50% from a accomplished woman.
Absolutely.
No, it's kind of sweet, the
I'll
backwards.
Tell you something else. There's a guy out in Santa Monica, this nerdy guy, he's older, he's a businessman. He must have a couple of retail businesses or something. And he set up this, I guess a 501 or whatever he's got going on to fly the homeless back to where they came from. And he goes around Santa Monica with these flyers, telling them to call this number. And he says he's got other business people with him on this program. And he's given out thousands of these flyers to everyone with the number to fly. It's a one-way ticket, Eric. I got to tell you that. It's not coming back. And he says, wouldn't you rather, oh, here's a little story of it. Wouldn't you rather be with your family? Maybe you could play a little bit of this.
See if I got,
crisis, that he's taking an interesting approach to try to fix it.
He's offering one-way flights for the homeless to go home to their family or friends. Matthew Seedorf is live in Santa Monica with a story you'll see only on Fox 11. Matthew?
Yeah, we went out with him today as he was handing out these flyers. As you said, Alex, he's so fed up with the homeless crisis in this area, he'll do anything to fix it.
Hi, sir. Are you doing okay?
Yeah. A bold new strategy targeting the homeless crisis across Los Angeles.
You want some water?
Go ahead, water.
Here's a poncho. You want it for later?
Fox 11 on the street exclusively with.
he seems like a nice guy, but how many of these guys are drugged out of their mind? I'm curious.
Every single one of them. And the fact of the matter is, you don't have to play the rest of it. I mean, it kind of explains itself. But the fact of the matter is, only 3 people have even called him to take it up or look into it and try to convert it into money. This is yet another insane liberal fantasy idea with this schmuck is willing to pay their airfare to go back home where they left years ago because their family had it with them or they had it with their family. The last place they want to go is back to Indiana with that original family of origin that kicked them out of the house. Yet, ignoring the fact that these are addicts, this guy believes these are just people who are down on their luck and magically thinking as a liberal in Santa Monica, if only they could get home, everything would be fine. And
no,
of course,
I can't help but think about that too. It's like, okay,
yeah,
part of the problem with LA and what you guys face, as Mac Wallace Arbitration Service in the chat says, is great weather.
Yeah.
So, it's like, oh, they're from Buffalo, New York.
Right.
And we'll ship them back there. How's it going to go for them when they still don't have a place to stay and we're coming into the winter?
Oh, let me tell you something. If somebody gave me a one-way ticket back to New York, I think I'd still stay. So, and I'm not a homeless guy.
You're going to be at the airport trying to sell the ticket so you can get
right. I mean, this, the guy running New York, I mean, you thought New York was bad before this. Wait till you see what happens when Zoran gets in there. Now, Zoran had a previous career as a rapper. He was, unbeknownst to me, Mr. Kamumden or something. I forgot what his rap name was. But it turns out that his mother is literally one of the biggest directors in the history of Hollywood. She has financed and directed the rap videos. Her name is Mira Nair. She's directed such movies as Amelia with Hilary Swank and Richard Gere, The Perez Family, Mississippi Masala, Salam Bombay. She directed Vanity Fair. She is a multi-millionaire director, and everyone in Hollywood is behind this guy's campaign, which is a given. Her husband is the top anti-Israel, anti-Semitic professor at Columbia University. And this kid was born obviously in Uganda, like most mayors of New York, as you're well aware. Mm-hmm. And he came here when he was 7 or 5. Who the fuck knows when he got to New York? And I'm talking as a New Yorker.
No, I think he was in South Africa, Uganda, then South Africa.
Whatever this guy.
Yeah,
his mother was on location, probably making a movie, and dropped him out of her pouch in between takes and breaking for lunch.
You know what else his mother did recently?
What?
She's the one who did the petition to get Gal Gadot out of the Oscars.
Yeah, that's because that's inclusive. When you want to take Wonder Woman, one of the great actresses, happens to be Israeli, and ban her from Hollywood. This is really inclusive, not unlike Booksmith up in San Francisco, which today banned the books of J.K. Rowling because that's inclusive. Censorship and inclusivity, apparently two opposites in the Democratic playbook. Now banning her books, Eric, which is what they do. That's what this cat is going to do when he gets into the mayoral race. So let me explain the physics of this and why I'm saying this. When you have a one-party system, like in California, New York, when you win the primary, you are essentially the mayor or whatever the primary is for to win in New York, the Democratic primary. So that being said, 1 million people came out and voted in a place that has, by estimates, 5.5 million registered voters.
Yeah, I think
and
it's
this is
800,000 max that voted.
okay. All right, whatever. Right. So you got 800,000 people now selecting the mayor out of a city, you know, that has millions and millions of people, but literally 5.5 million voters. Nobody goes to these primary elections, and it's because they feel when they get to the election, I will do my due diligence as drilled into my brain in elementary school and vote election day. They know this. That's
how
why
AOC got in.
That's their brilliance of getting around this. And to make sure that he got in, they implemented stacked voting, which has recently only been seen in Washington State or in Alaska, where Murkowski gets in. They have jerry-rigged this system to get this guy into the mayoral, into Gracie Mansion, which he claims he's going to turn into a Muslim museum of some sort. I don't know what he's going to do to Gracie Mansion. But this guy's got the grocery stores that are going to undermine. He's going to have government-run grocery stores. He's not hiding.
Chicago was promising that, remember?
But he didn't do it. This guy's going to do it.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's like we're just going worse. I mean,
this guy is going to, as he says, tax the shit out of the rich. The rich are going to try to flee, of course, which they will. The mayor of Boca Raton this morning said, who may be replaced by Viva at some point. The mayor of Boca Raton said he welcomes all New Yorkers fleeing the Marxist oppression and to come down to Boca Raton, Florida from New York, which they will. One of the top real estate agents in New York City said last night her phone has been ringing off the hook. They're bailing out like there's no tomorrow because the people know that unless a miracle occurs, this guy will be the mayor of New York for the next 4 years.
Well, this is assuming, of course, they can sell their current place because who the hell wants to live there? You know, if they're rich enough, then they can just eat it and take the loss and get the F out of town. But what about all the normal people who can't afford to leave? They won't be able to sell their property and they're screwed.
He also indicates he's going to tax white neighborhoods higher than poorer neighborhoods. He's going to split up the tax base based on ethnicity to raise more money by zip code.
Yeah. I mean,
once you get into these government grocery stores, this is going to put the mom and pop shops out of business who can't compete at that level. Obviously, he said there'll be no rent for the government grocery stores, and there'll be no taxes for the government grocery stores. I don't know how you compete against that, Eric, and they won't.
And I'm sure there'll be halal.
Yeah, no, I assume so too. I mean, he's asked about Sharia law a lot, but he's also a Marxist. So when people have been talking about this strange bedfellows in the protest of Marxists and Palestinians, this is in one guy, intertwined in one man, who, according to GPS sightings and GPS people who are looking at this, has been visiting the Obama mansion in DC multiple times, over 6 times in the last month, getting his marching orders from Barack Hussein Obama, who is the puppet master here, folks.
This is not who immediately endorsed him? Clinton. Clinton has been, like on the phone with him gradually. So the whole force.
Okay, well, there's a lot of Democrats who have not endorsed him and who also said that he's a threat. And Schumer has not endorsed him, and other mainstream Democrats have not endorsed him. If you look closely, they merely congratulated him, which is not an endorsement. This thing is just going to tear the city apart. It really is. And these Marxists, who are mostly from other countries, this is the type of Google Marxism that Eric and I have been talking about for a number of years. And Dinesh D'Souza talks about it too, how these communists in India have been driven out of India because they are ostracized in that democracy, and they've come to the West to implement their brand of communism that they were trying to implement in India for many, many years. Now, this cat came out of Uganda, but his mother's Indian. So that's where it comes from.
Speaking of which, you talk about him and what he's about and everything. Here's a neat little thing about his voices. You think Kamala could code change or whatever it's called?
Because I think that New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, there are different parts of my life.
Worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in New York City, this is how I speak.
And we thought Kamala had accents.
Right. Very interesting. Because this guy is as transparent as you could ever get. He's had one job, and that's in this district as a state assemblyman for 4 years in Queens. Most of these voters came from the outer boroughs, and when I say Queens and Brooklyn, the outer boroughs, Staten Island did throw in for him, and other boroughs did as well. But there is about 300,000 Muslim voters, 300 and change, in the entire city of New York, and about 590,000 Jewish voters in New York. Again, mostly Democrats on both sides, as it is a Democratic city. This is going to be an interesting. There's 546,000 registered Jews and 350,000 registered Muslims. So this may be a battle of religions now.
Well, hopefully, the blacks get into it as well, because they're very important. Here's his stellar, little tiny piece of his stellar rap career.
Yeah, I mean, these are all directed by his mother. They are. This may look humorous to someone, but these are not low budget shot with cell phones. These are fairly large productions where her mother has lent her support, money, and crew to try to make her son a rap star, and now to make him
Indian, right?
The mother
Bollywood.
Yeah, no,
but
she's not. She's not Bollywood, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
She is Hollywood. I need to emphasize that, because there's plenty of Bollywood directors. She is a mainstream, huge Hollywood director. There are Bollywood directors. She's not one of them. She is as mainstream Hollywood and is active, and there are people who need her to work. So nobody is ever going to criticize her because of her activity still being active as a 68-year-old director in Hollywood right now.
And probably a producer then too.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. But I mean, she's also a writer. But the point of the matter is, this guy's got the backing of Hollywood, which a guy named Barack Hussein Obama also had, if you recall. There's so many overlaps in these two men. It's terrifying.
True. I mean, and you're not the only one who's concerned about it.
I hope not.
Hold on. I've got this guy right here. Benny Johnson interviewed a street cop about the mayor.
Okay.
And I feel like a New York cop, you can probably get the real vibe of what a certain element thinks.
Yeah.
Hold on. Dang it. Play.
There was a primary in New York. The socialist won. His name's Zohrhan Mamdani.
That retarded guy. Oh, man, this guy's mentally disturbed. It's terrible. Whoever voted for him is heavily medicated, because, come on, man, we're trying to get things done right.
He has a famous tweet up that says, the New York City Police Department, we know that they hate gays and queer people and trans people.
Because he's gay. That's why. He doesn't want nobody to know that he's gay, so he's being quiet about it. A lot of people like to be quiet about their gayness. But this guy's probably the biggest gay lord in the 5 boroughs of the New York City area.
Gay lord. He's the gay lord.
He wants to defund the police. You down with that?
No, man. I got 32 years on the job.
Thank you for your service.
You know, people like this guy, sometimes we just got to bounce them off our chest and hope for the best, man. Because the people that probably voted for him were afraid. But that's the only way I see it.
So he says he wants to defund the police. Would that be a bad thing for the city of New York?
It would be bad, but I don't think that's going to happen because we're too strong. You know, he won by luck. But that's the way it works, man. We're going to stay here forever, brother. NYPD forever.
Not going to talk.
Well, that was uplifting. He also wants to replace them with social workers, which we began to do here in LA. That's the plan. The social workers or
they were doing that
ambassador.
in Oregon too, I think. And
Well,
it was
Oregon
falling
doesn't
apart.
have as much crime as New York and LA, so who knows what they're doing. But here, the ambassadors, as they're called, completely just hang out in a corner while you're being beaten unmercifully. There's great video of these guys, the ambassadors with yellow vests, just standing by while people are robbed and killed. Speaking of which, Brad Pitt, who lives around the corner from me, across from Jack Black, that other fat fuck, Brad Pitt was in promoting his movie in Europe, this race car movie. Race car movies are impossible to succeed because you can't see the guy and nobody cares about a car going around a track in a movie. So I don't know what he's doing with Bruckheimer in this thing, but everybody knew he was out of town. So these three burglars found the one little corner, which was a dead zone from his cameras, and burglarized his house last night, climbing in through a corner fence where there was a lot of shrubbery, Eric, but again, a dead zone camera-wise, and burglarized his entire house here in Los Feliz last night. They don't know if his girlfriend was in there or not. He's got a girlfriend who may or may not have been with him in Europe. But
this sounds like an inside job. I would love to.
They hit every house on the block. They hit every house on the block. They didn't even know it was his house.
All right. Well, if they find the dead zone, I'm just saying that, look, there, when people install security systems, they have found many times somebody on an installation crew who does cameras and things like that.
Not these guys.
These
are three black guys who came from the hood. Nobody's tipping these guys off. But that being said, you can't say when you're out of town, Eric, is the point. You can't.
Well, he doesn't have a choice.
I know.
It's kind of hard.
They had a thing called the bling ring here a number of years back where they went into everybody's house, and because they started to track them on social media, and this is about 10, 15 years ago, they went into every bunch of actresses and actors' homes in the Hollywood Hills who were out of town, and that was the origin of the bling ring, as they called it at the time.
Maybe that's good reason to have a German Shepherd.
Or I got a better one, which is more traditional in Hollywood, is a house sitter. I don't. That used to be the oldest way to do it. You get a friend to be the house sitter, and everybody would volunteer because these were amazing houses. And you got to take care of my dog. They even pay you sometimes. I don't know how nobody could be in Brad Pitt's house. I mean, it's really odd.
Well, you mentioned Adam Carolla
I would
earlier.
have sad for him.
Well, of course you would. You mentioned Adam Carolla earlier. I remember him a few years ago talking about his favorite security system. Like, never mind ADT and all that bullshit. He said an NRA and Confederate flag is what he put in his house.
That's interesting.
As a display that, and people are less likely to break in.
Well, the House Oversight Committee yesterday and today announced an investigation they're opening for the first time into Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom of Los Angeles and California, respectively, Eric. This is Comer going after big game hunting, Eric.
Where's Bondi? Why isn't it? She?
I have no idea.
No, I'm saying the Justice Department, I would think, would be out there.
I would think so too, but I'll take what I can.
Sniffing.
I'll take what I can at this point. I'll take Comer going after Karen Bass and the House Oversight.
And you know what? You're right. They can refer them to the Justice Department.
Yeah.
So, by the way, one last thing. Back to New York a little bit before. We had Cuomo. We don't know if he's in or out, but his brother is very unhappy with AOC, who was supporting our, leading.
How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party. You're killing your party.
What's it to him?
And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, whatever you really are, because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat. And you can say, well, what do you know? I was raised by a real one.
Listen to this. This is funny.
Okay.
I was raised by a real one. Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew?
Organized baseball.
Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't shit compared to him.
Whoa.
Not in terms of intelligence, not in terms of success, not in terms of pedigree, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of mission, not in terms of eloquence, not in terms of charisma, not in terms of anything. Certainly not electability.
Who mentioned his father?
You are killing your party because you are not a real one. Because you're doing what's good for you in a vacuum with your little social media following. You're no different than a pod bro.
Pod bro.
I thought that was kind of, you know what, with all the splintering and arguing that's happened with MAGA, it's nice seeing a little bit on the other side.
On the other side, yeah. I mean, he doesn't address his own brother's political demise in this race, how he didn't really campaign. He thought it was a coronation. He thought, according to my sources in New York, that he was going to walk in, that he didn't even need to shake any hands. This being Andrew Cuomo, who's got a lot of baggage, but not as much baggage as the Marxist. You talk about a lesser of two evils choice, Eric.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got Eric Adams, who's a crook. You've got Cuomo, whatever he is, a sexual abuser and a murderer. And then you've got the Indian Marxist Islamicist who says he's going to arrest a leader of Israel when he shows up at the airport to go to the United Nations. I mean, this is a tough choice.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually it's sad. It's an incredibly easy choice because you know who the worst is. I mean, it's like you've got lesser of multiple evils here. Well, we definitely know the ultimate evil, and unfortunately, he's the one who won. Zoran. Yeah, it even sounds like it, doesn't it? I mean, does that not sound like?
I think that was the criminal's name. And tell me if I'm wrong.
Superman.
And Superman, yeah, who put them into the Twilight Zone with the Twilight Ray gun in Superman. The guy, the dark-haired guy.
Yes.
Wasn't it Zoran?
It's saying a Zoran Superman. I think there may be a Zoran character.
Yeah. He is the guy who they escaped from the Phantom Zone. And then later on, he uses the Phantom Zone ray gun to send Superman into the Phantom Zone. Phantom Zone was the alternative to the death penalty, if I remember my Superman folklore, on Krypton, where they found this, they created a zone where they could send you for punishment. And these are the three worst criminals in the history of Krypton. And they were sent into the Phantom Zone, somehow escaped. And one of them was Zoran. So maybe they named him after him.
Well, okay, it was General Zod was the main
General Zod. Okay, that's close. Right, that was the guy.
But I think there's a
no. I think that's it, General Zod.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, that's all right.
I saw there was a Marvel Zoran, so
right, I think that's something.
Sound like a comic book villain.
Speaking of Hollywood, apparently the Bond movie has a director now, which is one of the strangest choices I've ever seen. Dennis.
What's worse than that is the choice for Bond. The actor apparently has done trans type stuff.
Well, I haven't seen he just got hired. What did they cast him yesterday? The director?
The actor. I forgot who it was. They were chosen. I mean, people are pretty enraged. This is the director.
Right. Now Villeneuve has been around for years. He recently directed Dune 2, but he is a giant crackpot of a director and has never worked in this Bondian world of little action films, or not little action films, big action films. I mean, you could take what you want out of Dune, which does have a lot of action scenes, but he doesn't seem like the choice I would make for Bond being rebooted here.
Okay,
but I mean, he's a big name director with big name projects and big budget things, so he's not going to be uncomfortable with a big budget Bond. That's for sure. He's definitely capable. What I've heard is he's a crackpot.
Oh, that's always nice.
Yeah.
I forgot. Okay, they're saying Jonathan Bailey, I think, is the.
Well, he's got to come on board. This guy, whoever they're throwing out, these are just trial balloons. Because once he's on board as a director, then they'll go through all the different choices. They're not going to. In other words, the way it's done is you don't cast the guy before the director comes on. So whatever they're saying before Villanueva comes on, I think is just trial balloons. But it may be that guy. But he's got to sign off on it. He just got named yesterday.
All right. Well, before we go any further with any of this, we've been a very, very critical of Tucker Carlson. We've even done an episode on his father, Dick Carlson, which, by the way, has done very well. A couple 100,000 views on that thing. And it seems to be some controversy. So Tucker wants to talk to us, I think, about, what has been said about him. and he's with us today.
Hey, Tucker.
Do I want to talk to you? I don't know if I want to do that. I don't think that's a great idea. I certainly love conversation, and I love what you're doing, and I also hate this show. Why would I want to talk to you? America's untold stories need to be told. I love America, and I love stories, and I also hate them. Good to be with you, gentlemen.
Can you tell us about the demon wounds? Are they healing on your neck? We understand, according to medical sources, you were attacked by one or two multiple demons in the middle of the night. They were so quiet, your dogs didn't even hear them. How are you feeling?
Actually, yeah, I was attacked by a demon in the middle of the night. I woke up and a demon was actually performing top surgery and bottom surgery on me, and now I became a trans demon, and they're going to call me Tammy Carlson. It's a real story, and I really believe that. I really do.
You believe that demons are quite real, Tucker, right? Because of your experience with the demons?
I certainly believe demons are real. I don't believe World War II was real.
You just mentioned Israel in that final statement there. What is your current stance on the nation of Israel?
Oh, I love Israel. I'd love to go there with my family, with my children, and I think it's doing terrible things, and it's a terrible country. So I really believe that. I really do. I think Israel is real. Is it real? I don't really know.
Israel,
is it a country? I don't really know that. I don't want to be involved in it. I certainly. I've never heard of a country like that. Is that the modern nation state of Israel? Are we talking about the Bible? What are we talking about here?
Well, I think we're talking about the Old Testament versus the New Testament. The Old Testament, which is apparently something you've never read, versus the New Testament, which
how many words are in the Old Testament?
The Old Testament's written in Hebrew, so it's hard to count. But
I would think you'd want to know how many words. You want to know how many words are in the Old Testament. So
I personally don't know, and I can't quote where these things are. But
153,000.
Thank you. In the New Testament, which is on audible.com, which you've recommended that we listen to the New Testament through audible.com through a side deal that you apparently garnered. Who do you like better, the Jews or the Visigoths or the Palestinians? Who are you rooting for in this mess in the Middle East?
Russia. Oh God. Oh God.
Now, you've been to Moscow, apparently, according to your videos, and you've looked at the grocery stores, you looked around there, you said it was a great city.
Beautiful.
I guess you met with Putin a number of times.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you were working as an intelligence operative for Qatar at the time, but what was your take on Moscow? Could you live there? You seem to like it.
Well, Moscow, I thought was certainly a beautiful country. The people there love their country. The leaders love their country. I mean, it's obvious to me that we could learn a thing or two about how to run a country better. I think there's a lot of passion in Moscow. I think, the words Moscow, I mean, I think about our farmers. I think about our dairy. I think about how dairy is hurting a lot of people. And I think it's an oppressive regime, and we should think about that. I certainly don't want to be like them, but I like them.
As you pointed out, it's the largest white Christian nation in the world. It would seem like someone like yourself would fit right in there and enjoy the benefits of living in a country like that.
Well, I live across from my parents' graves. I'm not going anywhere. I'm American. I made love to the state of Massachusetts.
Where are you? Do you live in Massachusetts? Where does Tucker live? He lives in Massachusetts, I guess. Or
I live across from
Maine. He lives in Maine with.
I live across from my parents' graves inside the Liberty Bell, and I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, so when you get the funding that you get from Qatar, is that through a debit card or a check, or is it just a wire transfer straight into your account at Wells Fargo?
They pay me in rubles, but Bitcoin rubles. They're called boobles.
So, Ami Kozak, thank you.
What's up, guys?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
for coming on.
Yeah.
We did want to ask you how you do, or how you put things together. Like you do a lot of back and forth of the voices. Are you recording in two parts with yourself? How do you go about that?
You kind of just saw it, I guess, how it gets done. Well, I think of the concept sometimes when I'm doing these parodies or satirical videos, and then I play both sides. So I'll usually, once I have the premise, I can kind of run with it and do a stream of consciousness kind of thing. I imagine what the questions will be. I kind of come up with an arc. It's like premise, improv, tag. because there's
I mean,
always a little bit.
is it based on him splitting his own opinion in reality, or is it you just riffing off of that? I mean, because sometimes he's on both sides of the fence over a period of a year or two.
Sometimes.
I mean, even closer, right? I mean, within a few days.
The modern manifestation that is Tucker Carlson is someone who just traffics in confusion to me.
Right.
And I think that's his function seems to be willful confusion, introducing a whole lot of doubt, ensuing doubt into the dialogue, into the body politic, and ensuing a sense of uncertainty. I thought America was good overall. I thought the people that America fights are generally bad in terms of actual objective moral standards by which we judge human behavior, how we judge nation states, how we judge leaders. And he doesn't make proclamations or judgments. He does something a little bit more devious, which is uncertainty. I mean, it certainly feels like America's good, but I don't know that. How do we know that? And without anything conclusive, you create a whole culture in the media landscape of amorphous morality, and no one can grab onto anything.
Interesting.
And that's how you you can create a sort of place for yourself as sort of the Lord Baelish of modern media. It's a Game of Thrones reference of somebody working in between everything to sort of turn different people against each other while cultivating power.
Well, has anybody ever been on every single news network ever exist? I mean, from MSNBC to Fox to CNN, and I mean, who else has been on every single side as a TV newsman? I don't know any other person other than Tucker Carlson. There's a couple that have gone from Fox to CNN, but he's clearly been on every single news outlet regardless of politics.
The Lord Baelish of media, which is an interesting. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones, but if you remember Peter Baelish, listen, what we're going to do, the chaos as we move between media. So I don't know what his motivations are. That's for a psychologist to determine, or for him to say. But I'm judging the behavior now, and you could watch old clips of Tucker Carlson versus new clips of Tucker Carlson. They're different people. Watch an old clip of Tucker criticizing Pat Buchanan's isolationism and Pat Buchanan's anti-Semitism. It sounds like he's criticizing the modern version of Tucker. Now, why that's all going on, one can have all sorts of theories. Maybe it's a sense of loss of Christian solidarity he feels in this country, where he wants to try to infuse that back while being at the helm of it. And therefore he wants to try to divorce Judeo-Christian from itself, which has been
that's what it seems like.
That's been an ethos that's like been at the bedrock of a lot of American culture. That's the good parts of it that combats the wokeness. And he's trying to like carve out this third lane of no. I'm going to peel off the Christian from the Judeo. I'm going to be your representative. Don't listen to the Daily Wire. Don't listen to traditional legacy media that screwed me, that I abandoned, that abandoned me. I'm going to screw all of you. So I don't know what's going on there. Well, but that's the only justification I can explain it, because otherwise he's just trafficking and creating a whole lot of confusion mixed with historical revisionism, mixed with a sense of moral subjectivism. And so I just have fun with it because he essentially is a walking amorphous contradiction.
Well, it's kind of, it can help you when the president of the United States calls you out as a kook on national TV. That can't be good for your career.
Total kook. He's a loony guy. The laugh is crazy. He's laughing. He's like he's on cocaine. I don't know if he snorts something before.
Well, right. I mean, there's two things. One is that Russell Brand, he said that Russell Brand took him to an AA meeting. This was last year. He had no idea this even existed on the planet Earth, according to Tucker. Russell Brand, who's been clean and sober for a long time, written a bunch of books on it. And he apparently took Tucker to a meeting. Tucker famously said he quit cocaine and tons of alcohol on his own. Maybe those are the demons that attacked him, Ami, in the middle of the night. It might be a parable of addiction.
Or it could be his dogs.
That's
Ami, are you out of New York?
I'm on the East Coast. Yeah, right out of New York City.
I noticed that you've pivoted a little bit. Lately, you've been covering Zoran Mamdani. I don't know if I'm saying it right. And we were talking about him earlier. Obviously, some very real concerns. Starting with, doesn't Zoran sound like a comic book villain name?
Zoran, yes. Beware of Zoran. I mean, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Beware of the do-gooders who come to do you good. You know, that's another part of it too. It's so interesting because what he's kind of revealing in a sense is, while we all were celebrating the collapse and defeat of wokeism as we thought we did, we thought we burst the woke bubble, but really I think we just replaced one form of populism with another, and the same kind of ethics and mentality are still animating people's
formation of politics. You know, we didn't like the woke cultural stuff, the cancel culture, the controlling of speech, the lack of common sense, but we didn't replace it yet with something viable and sensible and rational. So instead now we can still point to these same problems to society, and the same old tired arguments of socialism come up, and you know, it's as if these arguments have never been made before.
Is it the
we have no history
romanticism, Ami, of socialism? Is it the romanticism of socialism that doesn't kill it?
Of course. First of all, there's a few reasons why it's always appealing, because it's easy to position yourself to be for, you know, prosperity by just declaring it, not understanding how actual wealth is generated and created, not understanding negative unintended consequences, and not understanding basic economics. You can look around at a world where there is scarcity, there is struggle, there is challenge, and say, we should just make this the Garden of Eden. Let's just make everything free. By his own logic, why, if the buses can be free and the groceries can be free, why can't everything be free?
Well, he doesn't want to say it right. No, he's starting with the two.
Why stop at $30 an hour? Why stop at $30 minimum wage? Go to 100. Like,
they went to 38 here in LA
Yeah,
for the hotels. I mean, he's behind the times.
What could possibly happen if only had recorded historical proof of every time these policies are implemented, it leads to the same exact things? But it's also a lure because I think people are seduced by it. One, because it's often young people who come out of their family enterprises, which are socialist enterprises. They come from often places of privilege that don't have to live under socialist governments. So in the privilege and luxury and benefit and comfort of capitalism that they've all benefited from, which has allowed a standard of living to send them to schools so they can learn abstract philosophy that doesn't have real world application or has disastrous real world application, they can then sort of have an FU mom and dad energy. I'm going to go away on that and use the education that was paid for by you and the rent that was paid for by you to say, you know, I want something more. I want this and that. It creates a sort of entitlement culture. And that because you come from families that are socialist enterprises, we all understand that at that base level for the people around us, some wealth is redistributed amongst family or community. We try to extend that to the larger society or larger state, and it becomes disastrous because ultimately it relies on force and coercion. And people are not just pawns that just do what you want, Zoran. They behave and respond to certain things. Aside from the moral question of taking things that don't belong to you. Remember, the socialist relies on the capitalist because
he calls it distribution.
Yeah, of course.
Which is taking he calls it distribution.
You know, there's all the buzzwords that are sophist, that are all forms of sophistry, right? Investment, redistribution, fairness. That's all theft. It's all taken.
What happens to the mom and pop bodegas if he opens up government bodegas? I don't understand. How are these people supposed to survive when their competition doesn't pay taxes nor rent?
Forget all that. Like the idea that prices are just these things that stores determine. They're not based on market forces. They don't convey information about supply and demand of goods. By his own logic, if they raise the price to $18 because they're greedy for eggs, why not raise them to 50 or 100? Or when the prices come down, are they getting less greedy? This is all about not thinking past stage one, thinking of basic economics. And not to mention even these free stores, it's not like they're going to out-compete necessarily, but what you have is wasted resources, surpluses, and shortages because you have no price mechanisms to determine when things should come in. It's just distortions into the business market.
Is he going to have a price control administrator of these stores? I mean, how would they determine the prices? By a guy who is going to be his sidekick who says the eggs are $12 this week?
Yeah, listen, this is all fundamentally trying to exchange what he calls corporate power or greed for political power, which in fact actually has power over you. You don't have a choice when it's the government. You do have a choice when it's private markets and competition. The government is the monopoly of force that says you have to pay for this and you have to use it. And if you don't, then that's where food goes to rot, resources go, where people go to turn into a public bathroom because there's no accountability, there's no profit, there's no ownership. So it's really a denial at its core, socialism, of human nature, human existence, human interaction. And, you know, it's easy to demonize capitalism because you can always point to inequities, inequalities, but what you don't see is all the unseen harm that's going to come with, you don't notice all the prosperity and the excess that's created. You just point to things that you want that you don't see.
Everybody wants to stick it to the man, right?
Yeah.
What's it Churchill said that capitalism is a terrible system until you compare it to everything else.
I think he said that about democracy is the greatest form of the greatest system government system except for all the others. But even so, like the idea is like capitalism as its core, free voluntary exchange between people is at its pure form. If it's not regulated and distorted, capitalism, trade, value for value. That is, I think that's something also that socialists like Mamdani and people of that ilk who believe that they resent it because it does reward merit and skill and competence. And they see those things as cosmically unfair, that the fact that some people have talents and abilities and get rewarded for that, that is simply cosmically wrong. And as opposed to letting society benefit from the most talented, the most skilled people who can build businesses, who can be creative, who can invest, who can take risks, that everybody benefits from, like Amazon or Apple or any of the things that, or any of the capital investment into anything that builds art and culture, all those things, they do reward people in a capitalist system who are willing to put the risk and talent and grit into it. And that's resented by socialists who deem it cosmically unfair that people have differences. They don't like difference. You know, they see that as unjust. They look at disparities and they say, okay, this must be an institutional problem. It must be that because I believe in the power of institutions, we can perfect society by being the philosopher kings that manage everything. I think that's what animates it. And it's always easy to make those declarations. Shouldn't things just be better? Shouldn't we just have more without understanding how more is generated?
Who's his base, Ami? These young kids who just got out of school?
I don't know. I'm not like a data researcher on it, but it looks to me when you look at the celebrations, it's upper middle class college kids,
white kids,
college kids, college educated kids, and that makes a lot of sense. I think if you're working all day, do you have time to volunteer for Mamdani? If you have you're a working class and trying to just make ends meet, do you have time to go to the streets and busk and hand out signs for a thing? I think it's a lot of people who want to pass policies so they can feel virtuous and that they have a purpose while not suffering any of the consequences of those policies, because it's not really going to affect them.
Well, what's your opinion? Is New York fucked now? I mean, what's the deal here, Ami? Are we fucked?
Is New York? Look,
I don't know how they survived de Blasio. How are they going to survive this? I mean, Eric Adams was at least a crook who went out at night and was a dandy.
It seems very predictable what could happen. A free bus will become a public bathroom. You have free grocery stores that just have food sitting and rotting. We've all been to DMVs. Is that what you want to apply to businesses out there? Do you want that experience everywhere? Do we want more of that? I think you'll probably see a lot of crime go up, more dangerous areas. And what will they say that's unfalsifiable? We need to do more. We need to do better. They will generate and exacerbate the problems and then say we need more of the same to address those problems. Because the worse things get, it proves that government is just not doing enough. And I think his whole views on criminal justice, his whole views on economics. And then, of course, there's the whole anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, anti-Israel thing couched in this need to create hate crime task force. But, something tells me that if a Zionist Jew is walking around with an Israeli flag and gets assaulted by a mob of Palestinian protesters or anti-Israel protesters, would Mamdani be the one to stand up to that? I don't think so, given that he's marched alongside them for the last 2 years.
No, I think he would probably say that the individual is provoking others.
It's important to, exactly. It's important to remember the clouded sort of language that he uses when he talks about these issues. Like when you ask about Israel, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? He says, I believe Israel has a right to exist as a state with equal rights, implying that it doesn't have equal rights now. That's one sneaky trick. And what if you press him, he also said, of course, the terrible war crime of October 7th. He called it a war crime. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Terrible war crime. Sounds satisfying, right? Sounds like a satisfactory answer, except the current war in Gaza was started by that action of the terrorists on October 7th. He makes it seem like there was already a war going on. And granted, war crimes happen from two equal sides fighting. So in that, there's another devious, quite sneaky way of framing October 7th as a war crime rather than a brutal act of terrorism targeting civilians.
This sounds like a mayor's got is a mayor with a foreign policy all of a sudden. He may have
Well,
other ambitions.
The last thing, this is important. The last thing he
Go ahead.
says, which is when he says, if you actually press him on Israel, does he believe it has the right to exist as a Jewish state? And he says, no, I believe in a state with equal rights. Well, within Israel has equal rights between its Jewish majority and the minorities within it. But what he really believes is a right of return for Palestinians from 48 and all of their descendants displacing the Jewish minority violently. Right. I don't think he would speak out against that. This is something he does support. So,
well,
he doesn't
isn't his father one of the big ringleaders up at Columbia about this?
From what I understand, I think there's had a big influence on that. A professor or something. I have to look into it more. I don't want to make statements on that, but I believe from what I've heard that he's been a professor on like Middle Eastern studies or something.
Yeah.
But he's clearly, I mean, he's been very clear about this. In one of his rap songs, he talks about the Something Five, this group that supports Hamas, that he says, look him up. You know, if you press him, is Hamas a resistance movement? He would say yes.
Yes.
And now that he's becoming more public, maybe he has to bury that. But he at his core does believe that in the full right of return, which means the inevitable violent displacement and dismantling of the Jewish state of Israel. There's no question.
Well, we'd like to give you the full right of return to come back to the show, Ami, with updates on some New York angles on his race, if you're willing to do that. And you could bring Tucker with you or all your other little friends that you've created in the future, Ami. It's great to have you, man. Great to meet you.
Great to be here, guys. American stories, great stories. No story like this one. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ami.
Thank you
guys.
so
Take
much,
care.
man.
Bye.
All right.
Well, that was entertaining.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice departure.
Well, a couple of
clips.
people have passed away since the last episode of America's Untold Stories. I thought we should mention them.
Yes.
The demise of the legendary Bill Moyers, who has featured into some of our stories in the past. Bill Moyers famously working at PBS, but he was chief of staff for a while and speechwriter for LBJ, and was brought in by LBJ to be part of his inner circle, Eric. And he passed away this week or 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah, a couple days ago, and then yesterday.
Well, let me just say something about Bill Moyers. Bill Moyers famously, and we discussed this before on the show, was at such a bad place with LBJ that him and Dick Goodwin, a holdover from Goodwin was a holdover from the JFK administration, was a speechwriter for JFK, but LBJ famously made Dick Goodwin stay on with the threat of sending him to Vietnam. And after the threat of sending Dick Goodwin, which is Doris Goodwin's husband, who just passed away a number of years ago, he went to Bill Moyers and he started telling Bill Moyers what happened to him. And Bill Moyers was commiserating that Dick Goodwin is being forced like a hostage to remain in the LBJ administration. So Moyers and Dick Goodwin agreed to go to two of the top psychiatrists in Washington, D.C., and tell the psychiatrists separately and anonymously the characteristics of their boss without naming him, and then to come back and compare notes. And those characteristics that they came back and compared notes were exact, to their complete shock. And Goodwin said, I got to get out of here. And Moyers said, I can't, I'm trapped like a dog. And that was that their boss was a megalomaniac, a sex addict, an alcoholic, a bipolar individual who had manic episodes of manic depression, and was a guy who was exposed himself in public with with Jumbo. They didn't name him. These were the things that the psychiatrists came up with. And when they came back and compared notes, they were scared to death. That's who Bill Moyers was. Goodwin got out, Bill Moyers could not.
Amazing. Now, which one is the one that LBJ said, oh, you're going to Nam?
That's Dick Goodwin.
It was.
Yeah, he got a job. He got a job. I think it might have been on paper. He got invited to get out. He tried to get out. And I think it was Oberlin College as a professor. And he went in to let LBJ know. And LBJ famously said, get your boots, boy. And he goes, what? He goes, you're going to the bush. He goes, what bush? He goes, you're going to Saigon tomorrow. I got your papers right here. And the guy's like almost sobbing. And LBJ said, nobody leaves me. And he was forced to stay on in the administration against his will.
Wow.
Yeah, but Moyers, famously moved over to PBS, where he was for 50 years, carrying water for LBJ.
Yeah, I remember him being there.
Yeah, he was the face of PBS. But before that, he was the face of the Johnson administration during the war years, too. And he completely flipped the script. These guys got out from under this warmonger president so quickly that they later reinvented themselves, a lot of them doing things like going to PBS and becoming the face of PBS.
Yeah, well, I mean, it worked because I didn't know any better.
Yeah, no, that's why they did it.
Time, so
yeah. Also,
mean,
Lalo Schifrin passed away, one of the great Hollywood composers, worked on over 100 movies. I met, oddly enough, Lalo Schifrin. I was working on Mission Impossible is just one of them. I mean, Cool Hand Luke. I mean, there's so many films.
Dirty Harry.
Dirty Harry, the Mission Impossible stuff, hundreds of films by Lalo Schifrin. He was from Brazil. Now, people don't realize about Lalo Schifrin.
I think they said Argentina.
Argentina, but he espoused this Brazilian jazz music that came out in the 50s and worked with Dizzy Gillespie and all these greats. He was a keyboard player in Dizzy Gillespie's band. He played piano as a session man for all these jazz gigs. He worked with Ella Fitzgerald. Nobody remembers this about Lalo Schifrin, and he helped turn the jazz sound into an Afro-Cuban kind of sound, specifically with the late great Dizzy Gillespie, who was a bebopper who went through an Afro-Cuban phase of music, which had Brazilian influences on it. And I worked on a film, Manhattan Merengue, with Joe Vasquez, who was the director. And when we were in post-production, and it was a little tiny film, Lalo Schifrin was brought in because the producer, I forget his name, I think it was Puerto Rican. The producer knew him and did a favor for the producer. The great Lalo Schifrin came in and scored this little film I worked on by Joe Vasquez called Manhattan Merengue. And I was there at the screening. And when he was there, and I went, holy crap, I got to meet him. And it was just like meeting a Hollywood icon on a little indie film, which he was doing a favor for this guy, Eric, which tells you what kind of guy Lalo Schifrin was.
Well, I think he was very well loved. I mean,
yeah.
Just about everyone.
Yeah.
And he worked with everybody. Good God.
I'm trying to remember this producer's name, but I can't right now.
So what was he like in person? Just
No, I mean, I just met him at the thing. We just talked, at the screening, but just the idea that he was willing to score this little indie film was enough for me. That was quite shocking.
No, that's huge. Now, we probably should go into some of the big stories that were breaking through the day.
Dude, it's crazy, Eric. Crazy. What do you got first? I mean, we can't even do the show.
Well, they got the Supreme Court.
Right.
Big decisions, not 100% perfect, but the CASA decision, Trump versus CASA, with the birthright citizenship. The key thing is shutting down the judges from being able to, freeze everything nationwide. And Amy Coney Barrett actually, I know Barnes hates her guts, and I understand that, but she did have a pretty decent little line, if I can find it. She went after Jackson, and it was pretty funny. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this: Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. And then she went on further to say, we like to remind her, we want to quote herself, that nobody is above the law. And then she said, including judges.
Right.
And it was like,
wow.
I mean,
she's come home. She's come home to the 6-3 base. These decisions, was 6-3. I'll take them one at a time. I'll take this one as the birthright citizenship, and also the judges. There were some other ones about the Texas case about teenagers having access to porn websites. They ruled in favor of
adult verification.
Adult verification. They ruled in favor of Texas, the state. There's also the case
Maryland.
In Maryland about allowing parents to take their kids out of school for the teaching during the teaching of LGBTQ books. I don't know how that's going to work. What do you go drop your job and go get your kid in the middle of the day?
You could pull whatever you want to do. I mean, or pull them from the damn school. You know, that's the bigger concern is if they don't have the kid, they don't get the funding. And really the only thing they're going to respond to in the end is if they lose their funding. So I think that
I'll take it as a win. I just don't know how the physics work on what parents are supposed to do here instead of the banning of the books, which is what the left just did to J.K. Rowling. The Supreme Court has allowed the teaching of the LGBTQ LMNOP courses all the way down to first grade and left it for the parents to get your kid out of there during the course that is not a course, but during the teaching of that during school hours. I don't know physically how this works. And many times the Supreme Court makes these decisions and they're not really physically rational, and they split the baby is what I'm getting at.
True. I mean, but in fairness, it puts
I'll
the
take
power.
it.
It puts the power in the hands of the parents, and that's where it always should be.
Okay.
It may be, it might be more difficult for the parents. They may have to figure something out, or they could leave the damn kids in school and have them suck it up. But it does at least empower them to do it instead of what they had before, where the administrators were like, no, your child is required to sit here through this while we brainwash them and, force this, message on them. At least they have that freedom because, before they didn't even have that option.
Well, it would have been great, and this might not have been the case to do it, to say these books can't be taught to second graders, but that might be a separate case, Eric, right?
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't
one case at a time.
Case, yeah, but the ideal that you have to get your kid out of a school that teaches this insanity is not the victory that most people think it is.
It's a step towards victory. It's like a series of battles. There's still a war going on. It's culture war. But I see these as blows against the leftist, power structure, if you will.
Well, speaking about leftist power structure, Trump just awarded $94 million to NGOs to battle anti-Semitism, which I think is a great start. And he also has hinted that the settlement, when it comes from CBS, will also be used, and this is a great one, PSAs running on CBS against anti-Semitism. Instead of pocketing the money or giving it to charity, he will use these CBS to create PSAs and force them to run the PSAs at the rate cost of a commercial that would add up to the settlement, Eric.
Oh, that's a great idea.
No kidding. No kidding.
I mean,
wow.
I love that idea because
which leads us to a new movie called Nuremberg. Speaking of anti-Semitism, with this is an odd thing of this movie Nuremberg. This is like a remake in a weird way of Judgment at Nuremberg, the famous Nazi war crimes trials. This is going to have Rami, what's his face, and Russell Crowe playing Goering. This I'd like to see how Russell Crowe plays Hermann Goering. This is good.
I could see him doing that.
He's gonna. It's a stretch. It's either gonna work or it's not. Here's a little article that came out about it. Rami Malek is going to play this lawyer or psychiatrist. I take it back. The American psychiatrist who interviews the Nazi war criminals. This could go bad very easily. The guy who won the Academy Award last year made a documentary about a Nazi family that lived next door to the death camp and how their lives were affected by living next door as Nazis running the camp. It was hard to sympathize with their problems, but this could even turn out to be a complete nightmare as well.
I mean,
Michael Shannon too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Michael Shannon's a very solid actor, but I mean, Russell Crowe, I remember him all the way back when he played the tobacco guy, in the settlement.
Oh, no. He
has range.
He's got range, but playing famous Nazis, this is a stretch even for Russell Crowe.
Well, at least they're not having Mel Gibson do it.
No, he wouldn't fit he wouldn't fit the bill. I'll tell you how big Russell Crowe has gotten. I don't know how to explain this, so I'm just going to explain it.
Bigger than Jack Black?
Oh yeah. Let me explain this to you, because this is what film is about. Shane built him an office for the movie Kiss Kiss Bang. Was it Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? Or the other, was it the other guys?
Or the other guy.
The other guys with him
Gosling?
And Gosling. It's a private eye. So he built this office for a private eye, and they constructed it, whatever it is. And he goes in, he's looking around, and he's not saying anything. He's just kind of, looking down and depressed. And Shane goes, "What's the problem? What's going on?" And he says, "The office is too small." And he says, "What do you care? It's set for, briefly in the film. This is your office." He goes, "It makes me look too big." And Shane went, "Oh man." And he had to build another office for this fat fuck to make him look smaller in his own office. And he's already wearing this huge leather jacket throughout the entire. You don't know how these things work, Eric, because you're not involved in this. And no shame on you, but this is what people like Shane Black and other people have to go through with stars. And like I said, I'm listening to this Larry Charles book now, and he's dealing with Sacha Baron Cohen, who also goes megalomaniacal on The Dictator. These stars just have the craziest problems that you can never imagine, nor can I, and rightfully so. But holy crap, is he big?
Well, when you take all other,
but so is Herman Goering, so it may work,
right? Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's more of the taste factor of it. Like it's like very. Hopefully, it's more like Downfall than the movie you talked about that was in the Academy Awards, because at least Downfall.
Judgment at Nuremberg. You talking about, or
no? You were talking about the one that was the family that had to live with which is just like, what? Why would that?
That was completely sick. I mean, it was disturbing as all hell. It was disturbing as all hell.
Now, okay, this is disturbing, but not in the same way. It's a lot less. How do I put it? It's less disturbing, but it is disturbing, and it's more of a cultural disturbing, and that is in Maine. They decided to, for the news, have drag queen weather presenters.
Can you believe this story? I mean, look at this thing. That's the weathercaster, the weather woman, or the weatherman, or the weather tran.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like the weather individual.
The weather individual. Look what they and
hold on.
Go ahead.
Let's watch.
Go ahead. I didn't know you had audio.
Let's watch Charmony. Well, it's
Hello, everybody. I am Chartreuse Money, and today, as current temperatures right here, Saturday, it's 2:40 p.m., honey. It is 80 degrees here in Portland right now, honey, and we are feeling the effects. The sun is out. All it took was a pride parade to bring the sunshine out today, but honey, it is hot all over the state. We got 78 degrees in Lewiston. I know the people of Lewiston, Auburn are probably celebrating and jumping in the river. Please don't do that. Be safe, because it is hot.
Well, ultimately, the result of this is this.
No, Eric, say it ain't so. Why, Eric? What did she do? It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
They figured out that the populace was so annoyed that they just removed it. They didn't even bother sticking something in there in its place. They just literally.
Can you explain what happened to Maine? How the Pepperidge Farm? How did Pepperidge Farm become that? I mean, Maine was like filled with these normal people, and now
hard Scrabble,
right?
Type of, yeah.
Oh my God,
I do not know, but you mentioned
apparently
earlier,
the outrage was enormous. That's why that happened. There were overflowing phone calls.
True enough. Now, you mentioned earlier about Trump and the lawsuit and everything. Yeah, well, somebody has been taking notes.
Apparently.
And Gavin Newsom said, hey, Fox paid $800 million. Trump's getting a lot of money. I'm going to sue Fox.
This is a page, right? He's copying everything Trump does. I mean, this is Karen Bass giving a $20 million tax abatement for a David Fincher film yesterday on Netflix. The film shouldn't even cost $20 million, let alone giving a $20 million tax abatement. And today, he's alleging, I don't even think this is going to get into the courts. I think this is such a weak thing. He's just going for the headline on this one, Eric. I don't think this is going to make. Yeah, I don't think this is going to make it.
Well, no, I don't see what case he would have, because Jesse Waters, he's specifically named Jesse Waters as soon, and Jesse Waters was reporting that Trump is, fed up with him and blah blah blah, and he's like, you misrepresented the phone call. It's like, how do you know? Was he on the call?
Yeah.
So Waters is a commentary account. The same thing
is like the Rachel Maddow result,
and Tucker Carlson too.
Yeah,
where you could say nothing coming out of their mouths can be taken as something that's legit or journalistic principle.
That's why I think he's just going for the headline there.
I'm sure.
Getting some mileage. I mean, it's on the front page of the LA Times. By the way, the LA Times has the rulings on the front page, and they've omitted the one about the limiting the judge's powers of national bans by a judgment. That's not on the front page of the LA Times, by the way.
Shocking. So shocking.
Yeah. That's okay. They'll wonder what happened to their power when they rule in some district in the middle of Vermont that Trump can't have a foreign policy, and Trump just ignores it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Let me see. Okay, we've got another story here. This doesn't have the graphics or anything, but you sent it to me. I thought it would be cool to talk about, because I think I'm actually kind of happy to see it. And it's Walmart is testing dark stores.
Yeah, what is that?
Okay, but this is kind of a brilliant move. Now, to give you some premise here, where I live in Hampton, we had a Kmart, and the Kmart, as most Kmarts in America, they've all gone under, right? So you have this empty ass Kmart. Amazon moved in to that Kmart. They took it completely over as a distribution center.
Wow.
Now, that Amazon is cleaning everybody's clocks, right?
Yeah.
So you have Walmart. Now, Walmart has a problem, and this is me speculating here, but Walmart has a problem too, where let's just say there are places that we nickname Ghetto Mart. Or, there's places in Walmart where they have huge theft problems, shoplifting problems, things like that.
Right.
Well, what if they turn their own Walmart into their own distribution center like Amazon, so they can be competing on the online ordering business? It immediately shuts down the crime problem, but it still has a presence in the area. So now you don't have the shoplifting. You've got this. It's serving the purpose. The building is already bought and paid for. They can move the merchandise out and deliver to the customers and compete head on with Amazon. So I think it's
it's a win-win for Walmart.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if they could just launch those drones and drop it on your house, I think they could surpass Amazon with the drone delivery.
Maybe, but I'm I feel like I'm beholden to Amazon, and a lot of us are beholden to Amazon. I mean, I keep defaulting to Amazon.
Yeah.
And if Walmart can come in there and do some more competition and other places, I just would like to see. I'd like some degree of competition. And
well, like I said a couple weeks ago, they're at war now. They're going for it, Walmart. Like, this is just one of many moves to try to knock off Amazon. They are doubling and tripling down in their deliveries and pricing.
They have to, or they'll die. I mean, it's pretty dire. The only thing that's keeping them in the loop is that Amazon doesn't really make their money on the shopping. Amazon makes all of their money on their web services. And as an example, you know Ring Doorbell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ring Doorbell, like many startups, they needed to have a server infrastructure, cloud computing for collecting the data. All the videos being recorded into the cloud. Well, Amazon provides the back-end cloud data. Well, Amazon sees all these companies, and they monitor which companies are moving a lot of data. So Ring, for example, is moving a lot of data, so they bought Ring.
Yeah, I get
that's where they're making a lot of.
I mean, we've got a situation here where Paramount is trying to merge with this other company that's owned by the son of Larry Ellison and Skydance, and that's the holdup of this mega merger. is the FCC plus Trump's lawsuit of Paramount. And David Ellison said this is all going to be resolved, and no one knows how or why he is saying that this year. And this mega merger, he keeps saying, I've taken care of this, I've resolved this, and everybody in the Trump administration is going, not so fast. We haven't even finished the lawsuit settlement. And you're talking about this merger with Paramount. Paramount ended Showtime yesterday, by the way. That's done. That's been killed off.
What do you mean? It's no longer
doesn't exist. It's gone. It's gone. It's a sad day, but Showtime is now gone. Paramount is now Paramount Plus. No Showtime.
So it's just a name because
no. But they had a library and they had a thing, and Showtime, as people older would remember, was second to HBO for many, many years in terms of shows and boxing and everything. Yeah. Well, that's gone now. I'm just saying. I'm just putting out notice that it's a sad day for the death of Showtime.
Oh, okay, but in fairness, don't count Showtime out, because remember, HBO was jettisoned, and now HBO's back because they hired a consulting company, and they said, "What do we do?" And they said, "Okay, well, first off, you're going to become HBO Max." And then they paid them some more money, and they said, "Okay, now we're going to get rid of HBO, and now you're just Max." And then now they paid them some more money, and it's going to be HBO. So don't rule out Showtime. It could be back.
Well, what's not coming back is one of these two companies that's trying to merge, Skydance with David Ellison, and this Paramount. This is FCC is saying not so fast. Is all I'm saying. And if it doesn't happen by October 1st, it's over. In other words, they put a time limit on this. And Sherry Redstone, who never worked a day in her life, and Sumner Redstone, who did, is dead. And again, the widow is the one that wants to sell off Paramount so she can give the money to her grandchildren, whatever she wants to do. I'm not really sure, but this merger is definitely in trouble.
Now, isn't Skydance Lucas originally?
No. This is Larry Ellison from Oracle, who gave money to his daughter and his son. The daughter created, the daughter is Annapurna Pictures, I believe, or A24, and the son did Skydance, which is a pretty big indie company, not a small. They did Mission Impossible. Oh, yeah. I mean, they have made some big movies, tentpole movies. So this is not an obscure company.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know Skydance is pretty large.
Yeah, but it's still an indie. It's still an indie. It's not a studio. That being said, I think we should celebrate the birthday of these two twins, Eric.
Okay.
Because it's a good story. It's a good, happy story.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's a happy. We got happy stories, Eric and I.
Well, we should talk about that too. We are trying to maybe look at some fun stories.
The cat story was very interesting.
The twins. Okay, twins. I like the twins.
Yeah, let's do. I love the twin story.
Get the twins their moment.
Look at these two twins, everybody. Sheer joy. They're identical twins who turned 100 on the same day, if you could believe that. They both had a birthday on the same day. These
twins.
100.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. And they're 100. Look how good they look at 100. This is unbelievable to me. It gives me a lot of hope. And I guess they support each other. Of course, if one passes, the other one will pass the next day, as things will have it, because they're probably sewn together at the hip. And I don't mean that in Siamese. I mean that psychologically.
Well, okay. I mean, I choose not to rule people out on age. My birthday is coming up soon, and there's always hope for anybody, because here's someone.
Oh my God! Look at this.
Let's just watch her for a second, because I think this is remarkable.
Holy crap! Is she dressed as an old person? Because there's a lot of these phony videos now where they dress as an old person.
Oh no! This is really her. And by the way, I could never do this in my whole life, let alone now. But
well, she's probably been doing it her whole life.
She has
every single day
since 1935. She is 99 years old, and look at that.
I couldn't do
99.
And there's a level 9 for the dismount. Look at the dismount, Bob. That's a 9-4, says the Russian judge. Watch this.
Look at this. And she's on a balance beam.
Oh my God, she's limber as Gumby.
Yeah, I mean,
that's incredible.
That really is.
They ought to take her, and when she's gone, do an autopsy and find out what
genetic research for
the head, every part of her, the limbs. I mean, just chop her up, Eric. By the way, did you see that celebrity that nobody could identify? I sent you a picture of a guy.
I did. I was going to the cat story.
Either one. It doesn't matter. Either one. We got a lot of fun stories today.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm a cat person, and sometimes one makes an appearance on the show.
Wow.
No picture with this one, but that's very annoying. Wow. All right. So, this cat. Well, tell me the story. You read it and sent it.
Yeah. No. So, there's a picture of the cat in a bag. I don't know if you saw in one of those travel bags, but this cat disappeared. Ended up disappearing for 3 years. Went 3,000 miles across the entire country and came back to the same owner like nothing had happened. I don't know. I'm not a cat person, but it seems like an amazing story to me.
For sure.
To a cat person, I guess. You hear once in a while with dogs, but the reason I sent it to you is because I've never heard that with a cat going 3,000 miles. And I don't mean by car. This cat went 3,000 miles across the country and came back. It took him 3 years, but nevertheless, he came home.
Yeah. I mean, which is remarkable. I mean, I've heard that kind of story before, but that's really, really, really awesome. Okay, so we're going fun. Yeah, the image you sent me. First off, if you just look at the image,
yeah,
and I'm not trying to be mean. Okay, I know it'll be mean, but it's this legendary front man. I was like, man,
yeah.
I mean, honest, just at a glance. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I thought it was a woman too.
Yeah,
but what do you say for a band if it's a girl fronting a rock band? Do you say front woman? I've never heard that. No, you don't, Eric. Come on.
Lead singer, I guess.
So you change it from front man to lead singer.
Yeah, because I don't.
I've
never heard of a female referred to as a front man, but
right.
Like,
That's
what do you call them in Heart? You have the singers, just by name. I don't.
You say lead singer of Heart, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or
you would never say
or
front
Wilson,
man.
Nancy Wilson,
right?
Yeah.
But this front man is unrecognizable. But maybe we should reveal who.
All right, in the chat. Hold on, chat.
Well, maybe the chat knows
while
who
we're
it
talking
is.
about it, because I did not know who this was. Chat, you're going to tell me who this is. Everybody guess. Major rock star. Okay, hey, really? Oh, okay. Yep. There are some people getting it. There to help you out. There's another shot this close.
He's a little more masculine there, right?
A little bit, yeah. But born without an ear.
Yeah,
that was a weird thing too.
That's what I knew, that without the ear thing. Look at this. Look at hold on, slow down there for a second. Oh my God. Look at that. Look who it is. Oh my Lord. I guess the hair covered up the missing ear.
Well, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, well, you know what? That makes sense. I'd have long hair too if I didn't have an ear.
Right.
I mean, it was a good time to
just
grow up.
Scroll up a little bit. I wanted to see the copy for a second. At the same time, we were forming in New York. There's a big glitter scene. That's right. Pork chops and applesauce. We were more like football players. They're 6 feet tall. Simmons became the Demon. Stanley transformed into Star Child, and this is Paul Stanley, of course. Wow.
And then Catman with Peter Criss.
Right.
Star Child, Spaceman, and Catman. But by the way, the big irony of it is Gene Simmons is the Demon.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons, swinging it back to Israel, was born in Israel, but is a complete teetotaler who never drank, never smoked, never did anything. He's a complete square guy who his biggest addiction, I think, is collecting money.
Well, I think it might be sex, but he was on Fresh Air with Terry Gross one time. Famous interview on NPR. Terry Gross famously interviewing everyone for 50 years, and he was on Terry Gross. and he was trying to convince her that she would fall madly in love with him by him taking out his member and penetrating her, and just like the whole interview just went off the rails.
It was his tongue.
No, he liked to use other. He used other things to have things with women.
Hey, he
famously
landed
outspoken. Famously outspoken about it.
No, he landed Shannon Tweed.
Yeah, and thousands of others.
True.
Yeah,
but very
well. There's also Mini Kiss, by the way. With my favorite band is Mini Kiss, who are all dwarves dressed as Kiss.
Funny.
That's the greatest band of all time, Mini Kiss. Come on,
that is so funny.
Come
Oh
on,
my God.
As a cover band.
Wow. Well, okay. Something else to cheer us up. We've got a ton of super chats that have come in, so it's really happy to. Yeah. It's like, hey, hello, everybody.
That's rare. That's rare.
Spinner Pete starting the day with you're getting your very own Sadiq Khan.
He's
Enjoy.
right about that. He's right.
Not,
apparently this is their plan. To front these guys in there with the help of Obama and his people, and without firing a shot, by simply manipulating a simple election in a primary. I mean, you got to give it to them. I mean, you got to give it to them, their brilliance of taking over the country so easily. I mean, the fact that we're just fat, lazy bastards and not even willing, what's his name? The artist, I forget this guy's name, LeBoob or LeBoeuf. He's a New York artist who is a conservative, a painter. He was on with Steve Schmidt, with Rob Schmidt the other night, with a city councilwoman from Staten Island, lives in Staten Island. He was simply saying that people who he knows, Trump people, working class people, Teamsters, and the like, didn't even bother to vote. He simply said, we're not interested. We're too lazy to vote in the primary, because he kept talking to his own people.
Because nobody votes in primaries, and they know that.
He went to them personally, and they told him to go fuck himself. He literally begged Teamsters, carpenters, plumbers, all these people on Staten Island, said, we're not going to vote in this election. We don't give a shit. And they didn't vote. Only less than 1 million turned out. But they must know that when they're doing this.
I keep
I mean,
saying
you really get what you deserve.
Ran it with AOC. That was a trial balloon. And she knocked out an incumbent. The same basic thing they're doing here. Now they'll be doing it everywhere.
When they go to the election, when they go to vote in November, this is their only choice: is this guy or Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah. Pew Pew's been a member for 12 months, and not only that, he's made many more members while he's been here. So great, and thank you so much, Pew Pew. You've been amazing support. By the way, Charlie Kirk had a righteous rant about that on Megyn Kelly, talking about Zoltar, the evil Zoran, sorry, the evil
Zoltar.
Whatever. Nick Giusti. I used to feel bad for people in New York City, Chicago, and LA because of the horrible crime and literal shithole these cities are. But people keep voting for it. So this must be what they really want.
Right, but I'm saying it's not true, Nick. That's what I just explained. They're not voting for it. And by not voting, they're getting what they don't want by not voting against it. They're not. I mean, you have these tiny turnouts, 18% for Adams. This thing was 20% roughly. And this is the system that they've rigged to get this. And now these cities are taken over. And it would be one thing if it was Lima, Ohio, that they took over a random city in the Midwest, or Tallahassee, Florida. But these are the 3 biggest cities in the country and possibly the world in terms of influence. New York, with Wall Street, will now have an Islamicist mayor. They have a Marxist mayor in Chicago and a former Black Panther mayor in LA. Nobody finds this to be concerning. They just say, oh, well, that's what the people voted for. That's not true. That is mathematically not true. You could say what I'm saying, that they're lazy fat bastards and didn't get off their ass as a defense, but there's nothing I could do about that. But they certainly didn't vote for it.
Yeah, well, they've got to get the word out, get people out to primaries, obviously.
Yeah.
Because as Ami said, he's right. It's the Jose Vegas, of the world who are out there, with all the energy and driving and driving and driving.
Tip of the hat to them. Tip of the hat. The fact that lazy fat bastards can't counter that by simply voting in a primary is inexplicable.
Let's see. Helena Lojanek gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships. I think that's the first time you've gifted memberships, Helena. Thank you so much.
She's been around for a while.
No, she's been supporting us for a long time. I think that's the first time on memberships. That's really, really awesome. Thank you. Tim McLaughlin, member for 28 months. NYC will become the new London. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. I mean, I'm hoping people move in there. Mike Schaefer. Mark, love the new show. Great interview style. Remind me of my friends and parents. Keep them coming.
It's not a style. It's just two guys talking. I know people think I invented some sort of new style, but I didn't. It's just two guys talking, and that's what I want it to be, a conversation and not an interview. But thanks, Mike. Thank you.
No, I enjoyed Wednesday's show.
Yeah, that was an old friend of mine. And we've got Steve Gibb coming on Wednesday, who's another old friend who's going to talk about the music business and his family, which are the fucking Bee Gees. And he's got some great rock and roll stories.
And he had a babysitter, right?
He had a couple of babysitters, some real, some not real.
See, Jack White. Mark, the Superman villain you're thinking of is Zod.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I was half kidding, but yeah, I mean, it's he did come from the Phantom Zone, Jack, didn't he? I didn't get that wrong with the Phantom Zone ray projector that in the comic book was like on a little tripod and a circular dish. And the next thing you know, you were projected into the Phantom Zone.
Oh, he just reminded me. Zod was also the villain in Man of Steel,
right?
And that was Michael Shannon.
That's right,
Michael Shannon.
That's right. I think so.
Kind of coming full circle with another story.
There might have been another guy in the other movie though who wasn't him. I don't think he was the original guy.
Oh no! I'm talking about
but I'm
Man
saying
of Steel. This is a new one
in that one movie. Yeah,
with Cavill as Superman. Yeah. Let me see. The problem with the Bond guy is that he's black. Sorry, not sorry.
I don't know that he's black or not. I don't think he's been cast yet. Is what I'm trying to say. The director just got hired yesterday.
Yeah, I don't.
That's why I'm hoping against hope for my choice.
Let me see. Apparently, Villanueva.
So's my mother, but I'm not going to let her direct a Bond picture, Jack. I get it. Everyone who's ever selected to direct anything always says, I'm a huge fan of the thing you're paying me to direct. No one says, you know what, I hate fucking Bond. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's weird how sometimes it works out. We have an unusual and sometimes it doesn't. Like Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
He did Evil Dead and then wound up doing Spider-Man, and his Spider-Man was freaking awesome. He did really good work on it, but then other ones, it's like, I don't know. So how does that work? How do you know?
Sam Raimi did a baseball movie with Kevin Costner that is one of the best baseball pictures ever made. And I said, how did this guy make this baseball movie? Wow. You never know.
Versus M. Night Shyamalan, who made one movie.
Yeah.
And has been writing that movie forever because everything else sucks.
The one I just saw with him in the shopping mall was insufferable. I mean, just insufferable. He did it. He said he did it to launch his daughter as a star. It was at a concert, not a shopping mall, a rock concert. I take it back.
Okay. Jack White. My choice for Bond is Henry Cavill.
Okay.
Henry Cavill's not bad, but from what I understand, he's unlikely because he's too old, and they wanted to have a Bond young enough that they could have him for 15 to 20 years.
Good luck
over
with that.
Multiple movies.
Good luck with that.
It would, if they can get the right one, that makes sense.
Well, that would be a non-celebrity actor that nobody's heard of, which is a tough sell to market.
True.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Let's see, Jack White. Don't forget about the long Marxist march through the institutions advocated by Gramsci in his prison notebooks, and continuing with the Frankfurt School through Paulo Freire and Herbert Marcuse.
That is true. I haven't forgotten anything about it. His father who's at Columbia, is one of the leaders of that movement at Columbia University, and now he's gotten his son to run the entire city. You talk about a coup d'état. This is a real coup d'état.
Well, yeah. I mean, this guy though is like every bad idea rolled into one person. It is
Right, but he's just a puppet for his father and Obama. This is a kid who's 30-something years old. I mean, he's never held office other than this recent thing. He's not pulling the puppet strings. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, let me see. Jack White again. It's the government, the big mega corporations like Tyson and Coke pay off to ensure their monopolistic statuses. The problem with that a century ago is now, but since it's the government, hold on, that teaches history, they always leave that part out. Very true. Jack White. Wait, Jack White is the guy who dominated the chat several months back. Welcome back, Jack.
Look, I like the White Stripes as much as anyone. Again, I thought it was your sister. I didn't know it was your wife. I didn't know what was going on with her. Big fan. There's some documentary I watched last night on the current rockabilly state of the cult of rockabilly that is now formed again. A documentary I watched on Netflix last night. Fascinating doc. Goes into the history of rockabilly and actually mentions the White Stripe as a type of rockabilly, psychobilly, all these spin-offs, punkabilly. There's all kinds of different spin-offs of rockabilly now, and they've formed into a new counterculture of tattoo art and music and hairdo and everything.
And cars. Don't they have like
There's
a lot
a
of those
segment on cars? There's an
cars?
entire segment on cars in the doc.
Okay. Now, weren't the Stray Cats kind of rockabilly?
Oh, definitely. Straight up. Yeah, straight up. So was Robert Gordon. But that was another wave in the 80s.
Right.
Happened.
I feel like that was I feel like the 80s was the return of it.
It was the return of the return.
Echoing again. Yeah. But there was a show called Counting Cars. You probably never watched it on History Channel, but they had like a lot of rockabilly, and rockabilly also kind of has almost like a burlesque tie-in or something.
They have burlesque in the documentary where they're doing burlesque. There's all these different segments in the documentary. There's rockabilly burlesque. There's fashion shows. There's the hairstylist. There's the tattoo artist. There's the car guys, dancing, the music itself. There's an entire group of Japanese guitar players who come over and form their own rockabilly bands. Japanese rockabilly.
I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, take a look at it. I watched it last night. It's on
What
Netflix.
was the name of it? Do you know?
Something rockabilly. I forget the actual name.
All right, hopefully. But by the way, Jack, $50, very generous. Thank you. And I do agree with you on the message that we do have a problem with the corporatist angle of the companies being able to force out the little guy. Like COVID was the worst of that.
Maybe this guy who said he's willing to run for office today may be able to help. Eric Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he threw his hat into the ring today. He didn't say what office.
So Eric is willing to run, but Donald,
I know.
is
You
not.
know what I think? I thought the same thing. Don may have baggage that he doesn't want exposed, and Eric is a straight arrow.
Eric's a very straight arrow.
Don may have too much stuff in his closet.
It could be. I mean,
or maybe he doesn't want to deal with the incredible assault that's going to come at him for being.
He's the other half of the Guilfoyle.
Right. I mean, that's been exposed, but there may be others, But Eric said today he's open to run for elective office. That's the first time I've heard that.
The funny thing is that Eric, I've gotten the impression, is quietly much more influential than people think. He's just working behind the scenes. He's not out in front like Don Jr.
Right.
But I guess the big worry would be is how charismatic is he?
Right.
In comparison. Don Jr. is very charismatic. I don't know if Eric is or not. I only know him from The Apprentice, but he wasn't a standout on The Apprentice.
No, he's kind of a quiet guy.
Which, depending on how it goes,
and his wife is active too, right? Isn't that his wife?
Isn't that Laura?
Who's the head of the RNC? I think.
Right, the one that Barris keeps wanting to run.
Right.
Yeah, Barris I know keeps wanting her to run in North Carolina, I believe, or Florida. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that broke today.
All right. Sean Lucan, AUS Best Education on the Internet. Thank you, guys.
That's the membership guy. I
Yeah.
don't think he's ever donated any physical money before.
He's done super chats, yeah.
I don't remember seeing it.
But when they buy memberships for others or super
but
chat,
that's a different
both
thing.
are supporting.
Remember what happened to that guy with the fertility clinic, Eric? The Chinese guy. They said that he slipped off the balcony or self-deleted himself in the prison. And traditionally,
I thought of that. That's a good way to do it. I mean, if you're finding, let me see, you can't find tools, that is another method, I guess.
Well, again, no one's ever done that other than to be murdered, and that is what they always say. It's almost like a cliche that they say that he jumped from the balcony, which means they threw him off. That somebody did that to him. That's 99% of the time. It's the prisoners threw him off the balcony.
Okay. Well, I was just saying,
in my experience of these cases, you just don't go up there and self-delete by doing that. As somebody may have paid a prisoner, and this is my guess, to get rid of him.
All right. Al Gonzalez is stepping in on the New York race here.
What do you got, Al?
The secret weapon for Adams will be if he gets the Hasidic vote, which could be as much as 200,000 votes. Polls never account for this.
Let me examine that for a second by adding that Adams is going to be running on multiple party lines that he's created. One of the party lines, Al, that he's actually registered is called the Anti-Semitic Party, to tell you that you are correct. And Adams is hip to this. That's why he created a party called the Anti-Semitic Party that he's running on.
Okay. Let's miss that one. Let me see. K-Dog.
I voted for Giuliani on the Liberal Party line when he ran for mayor. He was, you can get onto multiple, he's an independent Adams now, so he's on two different parties. Both of
I know,
them,
but I'm sitting there thinking anti-Semitic party. What?
Yeah.
That's actually a thing.
No, he created it and registered as it. You can, in other words,
I know, but why would
100...
you choose that as a name? I'm so confused.
Get the Hasidic Jews. That's what Al's talking about. He did that to get that voting block, Eric. It's genius.
All right.
You're a Hasidic Jew in Brooklyn, and you go in and there's a candidate running on a party called the Anti-Semitic Party. Who do you vote for?
I would think you'd vote against it.
No, it's okay.
No, I'm confused as shit, dude. I'm missing something. Because
it's the Anti-Semitic Prevent Anti-Semitism Party.
Okay, well, thank you. But you just said anti-Semitic. You forgot the first part.
I'm talking
the prevent part does.
I'm talking generically. It's a party that he's created for this purpose.
Okay.
Not to create anti-Semitism. It's a party designed to just for him to run on that in that lane.
No, I'm perfectly fine with all that. It's just
I think you're on the spectrum too. I misspoke.
Wait, not the first half of the
no,
damn
because you're so
sentence.
spectrumy. I thought you understood what I was talking about, but apparently I'm talking to another spectrum person.
Oh, please.
Right. He's running, why not the Nazi party? He's running on the Nazi party.
Oh my God. You're the one who said it.
No, I know, but most people understand what I'm saying except people on the spectrum.
Oh, please.
I mean,
oh my God.
When does common sense get rid of? Okay, what does this guy have here?
Why K-Dog wants to know, why do Republicans always screw up when they get in power?
You know, because it's not a full-time job for them. Their full-time job is whatever their corporate thing is, and this is a part-time job. The Democrats, it's their religion. That's why. Yeah, Eric. I mean, you know the answer to this. I mean, if you kick them out, you're literally kick them out of their church for X amount of years, and they go batshit crazy. A Republican is in there going, I'm just in here to stop them. I got a real life outside of this.
Yeah, depending on where it is. But yeah, and a lot of it is, it's very difficult to run things. Republicans do have more independent thought and will argue with each other, as you'll see with Massey fighting Trump and down the line, whereas the Democrats have locked into a tighter cult situation where you do not go against the collective because they're collectivists. So just by the nature, you're going to have.
I was a collectivist. I collected baseball cards for many years.
I see.
I was a collectivist.
Debbie O. The way it usually works is that when the parent opts out, the child is taken to a different room during these topics. Oh, okay. There you go.
Well, Adam was talking about with Bill Maher. Well, Bill Maher was saying he was over a friend's house, some celebrity, and he didn't name who the guy was, wealthy celebrity in West LA, and they were in the kitchen having a conversation, and he said, "Can you turn the light?" Bill Maher said, "Can you turn the lights down? They're just fluorescently blaring, and we're sitting in here." So the guy turned the lights down so they can continue the conversation in the kitchen, and he said, "Teenagers." He was trying to make a point how teenagers will now come into a conversation with adults and just go, "Well, here's my opinion." And like he said, they were talking about the changes from their generation, in relation to children. And Carolla said that one kid, he was over his friend's house, started roller skating across this wooden floor in the living room with rollerblades on while he was having a conversation with the owner of that house. And Maher said he was in the kitchen with this friend of his. Obviously, they'd smoking some weed or something. It was late at night. The daughter comes back with the food, from a restaurant. And she quickly says, "It's so dark in here." And she puts on all the lights. And they're just sitting there, and she's like 16 years old. In other words, just completely bumming them out.
Like she owns the place.
Right, exactly. Right.
The entitlement.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what Maher was saying. It was the entitlement.
And by the way, the rollerblades with a guy who does woodworking as a carpenter.
He was
on a wooden
cringing.
floor.
He was cringing.
I could just see him like ready to throttle the kid.
But he said the parents couldn't care less. Nobody. He's having a conversation with the father and another father. And this 14-year-old kid sits down and just starts telling him his opinion. And nobody, him and Maher said, if we ever did that as kids, their parents would go, "This is adults talking, get out of here."
Oh,
but
they
nobody
does
does
telling
that.
them that. It would be like ears would be cuffed.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, what is it that we always heard from being a little kid? Little pictures, big ears.
Oh, I never heard that. That's that cool. Is that a reference to Kool-Aid?
No, it's like shut up. Children should be have all ears, no mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get away with that. And now it's like they run the parents. In other words, Carolla said, and Maher doesn't have any children, and he's not married, so he's blaming Carolla as a front man for this problem, which is kind of an interesting conversation. And Carolla's not disagreeing with him. He says, "I'm stuck with this mess." And he says, for instance, when we were kids, if we ever went out to dinner, which was rare, both Bill Maher and him said, we didn't get to choose which restaurant to go to as a 15-year-old boy. And he says, now if my family goes out to dinner, the daughter says, "I want Indian." The other kid says, "I want Greek." Or if they order food in, they want all these specific things. It's almost like children's rights have exploded into the parenting world, and they get to decide things that kids were never involved in, even in the discussion, Eric.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, it was the Henry Ford. Yeah, you could have anything you want as long as it's this restaurant and you're eating that meal.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
it's like,
my parents didn't ask me, do you want to go to this Chinese restaurant or not? I'll go like, you just get in the car. What the hell?
Well, not only that, I it was so bad. It's like I would go to a luxurious restaurant growing up, like Denny's.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like my limits. I had limits on the menu itself.
Right,
Never mind the whole restaurant. It was even what are you allowed to order? So you're not getting that shit.
Let me tell you something. I went in with my family one time. We went to this Chinese restaurant. There was a line. You couldn't get in. And in certain Chinese restaurants on Long Island, people paid to have a brass plate put up that said the family name, just so they can have that booth. They donated money to the restaurant so they could have it. And it said the Greenbergs. So my mother saw that and said, "We're the Greenbergs." And I said, "What? You can't do that." And she goes up to the Chinese guy and go, "We're the Greenbergs." And he puts us in the Greenberg booth. And the waiter comes over and I'm going like, "We're not the Greenbergs." And he's going, "Oh, just hi." I said, "No." And my mother's going, "Shut the fuck up. We're the Greenbergs all night." And that's how we ate Chinese food that night.
What I would have now, of course, the follow-up would be hilarious if the Greenbergs came in.
They didn't come in, but I'll tell you what we used to do. Me and my two brothers would steal the tips that my parents left, and the parents would get up, and we, as three kids, would steal the tips and split it up. That's how evil we were.
Ooh, yeah. That is evil. Holy cow. Justin Opinion. Hey, Mark and Eric, how do you guys feel about Jerome Powell not lowering the Fed rate?
Boy, I couldn't sleep last night. That's all I was thinking about last night was, Jerome Powell, you got to lower the Fed rate. It's like a Woody Allen bit, you know. I don't know what. It couldn't have been a lone shooter. It couldn't have been Oswald. You know, I don't know.
Well, Mark is very big on tariffs and anything financial. You will learn over time. He's
I don't know.
Super concerned about about the reconciliation bill. He loves the reconciliation bill.
I love that bill, that package. I was calling last night.
The big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill. I was calling Washington last night to talk to the parliamentarian of all people, this she-devil who's apparently throwing things out left and right, Eric.
Apparently, but
the parliamentarian now is it. There are people in the past 5 years who appeared on the media scene that you didn't even know existed before. Now we got to deal with some crazed parliamentarian.
So a question on that. How do you get through two-way? Because half of that show is reconciliation bill.
Oh, I skipped those. I don't even watch those.
I was going to say, I can just imagine. I sit there listening to. I'm like, oh,
I don't even listen to when he has the guests. I don't even get to that part. I don't care what they say, raising their hand in the middle of Indiana. I mean, they're very nice people, but it's just I don't care about that.
All right. Paul Henry, fill in the blanks on the Schlesinger memo. Possesses many characteristics of a state within a state.
I don't know what he's talking about here.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Is this like a game show? Probably Israel.
Oh, I guess. So, I mean, it could be.
I don't know. Any answer I'm going to give, it's like Chris Rock said, when you go to Black Studies, any answer you give is Martin Luther King. Chris Rock said, what's it? Martin Luther King. It's Chris Rock, not me, folks. Chris Rock.
Well, that's also a shortcut for how do you know when you're a bad part of town? The road is called Martin Luther King Boulevard.
That's also Chris Rock, right?
Yeah, I think it is him or somebody like that.
Yeah. So. Martin Luther King Boulevard. I had a crackhead comic friend who worked cruise lines, and he'd get off the cruise ship and he'd get in a cab, and he wanted to get to the ATM to get money to buy crack, and he knew that the crack dealers waited by the ATM, and he would say, "Take me to Martin Luther King Boulevard to a cash machine," and the cab driver would take him to whatever city he was in, got off the cruise ship, went to the ATM, there'd be a dealer there, he'd pull out money, pay the dealer, get back in the cab, go back to the cruise ship. Swear to God. You don't know any of this. You don't have to live like this.
Yeah, you are correct. I do not. And somehow I don't feel like
there's an entire underbelly of society that most people don't have to deal with.
Which I'm
Adam the Crackhead Comic.
Adam the Crackhead Comic. All right. Well, you know what? Scott Bimbo with a $10 donation is perfectly segueing into here. Got my tickets to the JFK B1 Lancer Conference. Looking forward to my Airbnb TVs. Keep your fingers crossed.
Oh, did you see the hotel we're staying in?
Yep.
Having the conference?
I was going to talk about.
Holy crap, this is an upgrade. Here it is, Untold 10, Hunley.
Untold 10, yes. We are going to be having it at the JFK Lancer Conference in November. There's information down below to link, or you can put your phone at the QR code on the bottom right corner there. Use Untold 10 so that way you get a 10% discount, and we can get credit for sending you. It's very important to us. Also, Mark, is we just found out about the hotel, and honestly, the hotel last year is phenomenal too.
Right, but this is a step up. Yeah, that was a boutique hotel, but this is nice.
This is I believe the main.
Yeah, this is where we're here. Look at this room, Eric. This is like one of our meetups on steroids.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, and it's going to be filled.
Beautiful. It's the Fairmont Hotel, by the way, in Dallas.
Yeah, Fairmont Hotel in Dallas, and this is what some of the rooms look like. Not bad place here.
Mm-hmm. I'll be in that
They have
pool
a
if you're
pool?
looking for me. I'll tell you right now. There's also a discount code, which we just got this morning for the rooms, Eric.
Well, they'll be sending the room info, I think, when people book.
To them, is that it?
Yeah. When they
right.
book, they'll be getting that. Yeah,
Gotcha.
They should be sending that out. To
Gotcha.
all of
I
them.
gotcha. Right. So you get a 10%. You get what? A special room rate?
I believe there's going to be a event room rate.
Okay.
For them. But
yeah, here's the
this
front
is
of the
the place.
hotel. This is great. I know this hotel. This is one of the classiest hotels in Texas. So they have moved up. This conference has really moved up. This is beautiful.
Yeah, they're swinging.
They're swinging. Yeah,
for the fences. It's like
this is number one with a bullet.
Throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah.
All right, Nick Giusti. What a great week for Trump and the American people. Shout out to the Supreme Court for having the balls to do what's right.
Boy, it's been a long
damn
time. It's a right, Eric?
It may be, but I'm really happy about that decision over the judges, the injunctions. I mean, that one right there affects like 30 other cases.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things.
Well,
that
I
have been
think Trump
jammed up.
read off the policies that it affected today at the presser. He read
several
off how many they had blocked him on.
Oh yeah. It blocked him on so many of them. It is really, it's not perfect, but I mean it's a major step in the right direction, and I'm really happy to see that because what I've been saying, and I know you were like ready to go, full Jackson immediately. I felt like Trump was loading the system where every time they did the injunction, it kind of forced the Supreme Court hand to where it's like they had to either stop this or the public was going to say, yeah, you need to go Jackson on them. Because it's
it may have been, but they were real
crazy.
Policies with real, things that he wanted to implement. I don't think he was stacking the deck intentionally with those policies. I mean, these are things that he was elected on to do.
Well, he was, but he was also doing it with 80-20 stuff. He wasn't exactly putting in, like controversial things. It was like 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. So it's
well, he says he's going to go full bore right now, full speed ahead.
Of course. I
the
hope so.
The USS Trump. Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, he's got a limited time.
By the way, how do you like the way they landed that jet in Top Gun with the net on the aircraft carrier that had its landing gears destroyed? And they put that mesh net, and it looked like they were using the real guys from the ship. That's why I was impressed by it. To prevent it from going off the other end of the aircraft carrier. I thought that was very impressive.
Well, I mean, the whole movie is. I mean,
right, but I mean, they have to do something when the landing gears shot and you're landing on the deck of an aircraft carrier, and they have this net that they extend. It kind of catches the plane. I mean, it's just an incredible device. And they unrolled it, and they had like training, and they. It was like something they must have trained a zillion times for to do. It was impressive to see. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
as was the entire Operation Midnight Hammer, as we pointed out last week, just absolutely to perfection. The two guys I learned last night who created it have been training for 15 years. The two men who created the actual dropping of the bomb, they were testing it in other areas for years. The preparation that went into this was amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
also they had ventilation vents that the Iranians
the size of a dryer, like a
right, and the
machine.
Iranians the night before had sealed them with concrete, so they had to send missiles into the tops of the ventilation vents, which they assume would be open, to crack the concrete of the ventilation vents from the night before. Whoa.
Well, the whole principle of it too was, the idea was like one bunker buster to open it up, another one to go further, and it was like they're digging it out
down,
in a short period of time.
But they were making moves. They were making moves, thinking they were cool that they sealed these vents with concrete, but they knew that was the move they were going to make, and they had missiles just for that. There was small ventilation vents. Wow. Wow.
See, Scott H is saying it's time to reform the JDL.
Well, not reform, it's reform. There's no JDL to reform. Maya Kahana I think he was thrown off of a prison balcony to his demise as head of the JDO. You could check me on that, but I think that's how he died.
All right. I'm going to skip ahead because I just saw Jack White dropped $100 here.
Zod, thank you, Jack. What is
Zod was a Kryptonian dictator. And Mark, have you been paying attention to a lot of Western pop culture over the last decade? There are people who have been hired to write and direct who openly brag about not knowing anything about the IPs they're working on. Yeah.
I haven't paid attention to that at all, Jack. I mean, I don't really pay attention to that, the new stuff, but I was just referring to the lore of Superman, where I thought Zod had come from. I assumed he was some criminal. I didn't know he was a dictator, but he was military, so that makes sense.
Yeah, he was General Zod. Yeah,
General Zod. Yeah, but I'm saying there were other people in the comic books. There were times when the criminals or whoever they were in the Phantom Zone got out, and that became a problem, which is what they're using in the movie, that concept of escaping from the Phantom Zone.
Right. Well, I think Zod was like a Benedict Arnold.
He was what?
Like a Benedict Arnold type.
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know the backstory of Zod. I don't know the backstory of Zod. I was just fascinated as a kid by the Phantom Zone.
Anyway, but Jack, yes, that is true about the IP. And it's even worse than that, because you not only have writers who don't know it, you have writers who actively hate it. And that's what happened with Witcher. Remember, Witcher had Henry Cavill in it for 3 seasons. He quit the show because they were literally rewriting it and destroying the creation. Henry Cavill's like a big gamer. He's a huge fantasy nerd. And he was like, screw you. He was saying, stay true to the work. So they have writers who brag not only about not knowing it, but then when they get in there and look at the original material, they talk about how offensive and terrible it is and how they're fixing it.
That's sick. That's some sick shit.
Beyond sick. So let me see. Nick Giusti again. Happy Friday to Pamela Clifford and no one else.
That's funny.
Wow.
Okay, she's not even here. She's out getting drunk. We haven't even seen her today. She's getting shit-faced. That's why she's not here. That chick goes nuts on her birthday. And it's legendary where she lives. I think she lives in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we might be seeing her at the...
I hope everybody comes to this JFK Lancer thing, because this looks like a special one this year with the release of the documents and everything else going on. It's a big one. I mean, obviously 60 was big, but this thing is the next best thing with all the document releases.
For sure. Big Bill 767 with $23. Very specific. Great show, guys, as always. Thank you.
Kirk Gibson's number.
Okay. Let me see. Raul Pacina. If Gavin wins, Bondi won't get paid this month.
If he wins his lawsuit or the presidency?
I don't know.
Well, I do know that they're under investigation by the House Oversight Committee, which is the greatest day of my life. This is, hopefully they'll be called to testify. Right now, he's in the middle of the auto pen gate, right, Eric? I mean, where he's calling, he had the auto pen administrator come in, and she answered all the questions truthfully from what Comer was saying. And she will now testify in public based on what answers were behind the scenes. So she ran the auto pen, said she never saw Biden. So now whoever brought her the documents is where they're going next. That's where this is going. Okay, let me explain this. Because she testified, and then I saw Comer, C-O-M-E-R, last night, and he's saying that they're calling everyone else who fed her the documents. So she never saw Biden. Now, keep in mind, the auto pen traditionally was used for official letters to an Eagle Scout or whatever.
Sure.
They are now using the auto pen for policy documents. This is relatively new and has been done to a minimal amount over previous administrations. So the auto pen administrator has now been kind of cleared. They said she wasn't combative. She answered every single question, but she said, I never saw Joe Biden. But she's kind of the secretary to Joe Biden is her position. So now it's going to be the chief of staff of both Biden and Jill Biden who are coming.
Oh, by the way, Jill Biden's chief of staff is refusing to come. So
of course he is.
He's
He's gonna, because it's him. Because it's him.
Oh,
he's the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah.
And now they're gonna have to subpoena him.
By the way, Ted Cruz came out with some interesting stuff on that too that really drives it home. Apparently, in the first year, Biden signed most things himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly, so there's a timeline that this happened.
Well, this is going to be interesting because they're going to have to subpoena her chief of staff because most people believe that he was the one running the White House. Yeah.
Yep, that's coming out more and more.
This
All right,
is gonna
Jack
be
White
fun.
again. They've also bragged about that being the reason they were hired in the first place. It's BS.
Who, these comic book writers or?
The writers in on television or whatever. I think it could be either what I said or what he said on that. Jack White again. Rockefeller tried to obtain a monopoly through the free market and couldn't do it, so he went to daddy government, and guess what he managed to get?
The Rockefeller Foundation?
Yeah, I mean, it did have an influence. Nick Giusti. In the words of Mark, get off your fat, lazy ass, Groubert. Please like and subscribe.
No. God forbid these fat bastards should subscribe. That needle has not moved in 11 months, people, because you just sit there watching the show, eating sandwiches and drinking soda, going, hey, ain't this great for free, Bobby? We just sit here. We don't have to do a goddamn thing. These two fat bastards are talking to us, entertaining us for 4 freaking hours a week. And we don't even have to subscribe. This is the greatest channel I've ever seen. Well, the jig is up, bastards. Now you got to do something. That means you got to lean forward over your belly and push the button. Come on, retards. You can do it. Come on. Who's your daddy?
It's gotten so bad that Mark started another show just to see if he gets subscribers there.
Well, don't mention the other show. I don't want these people coming over there. So don't mention it because these fat bastards can't even move from this channel. So they're not going to come over. We got a whole new crew over there.
I see. Al Gonzalez. Adams is running on the end anti-Semitism. You see, the magical word is that modifier in the start.
I'm sorry I didn't add the word "end" in there. Eric couldn't understand it.
Anti-Semitism ballot. I'm just going.
Well, it's the shorthand is what everyone's calling it on the street, Eric. It's a shorthand. Okay. I know this sounds incredible that people talk in shorthand or slang, and that people on the spectrum, it's their arch nemesis, like a cross to a vampire. But people do talk in slang.
Okay. Some people make sense and some.
No, he's on the pro. There's another ballot called the pro anti-Semitism ballot that's competing with Eric Adams. Come on,
kidding me. Anthony Madison, Trump's fault. Thank you.
That should be the name of a band, of a rock band, Trump's Fault. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Gary, Indiana, Trump's Fault.
All right. And Nick Giusti said, Jack White lives.
Yeah, yes. Jack White. I mean, he started his own record company. I don't know what happened to Jack White and the White Stripes. I don't know if he still plays.
Last I heard of him was bitching about Donald Trump using the song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always the funniest case because they've sold all their music rights to their publishing and they don't control it anymore. And
no, it's licensed. What are you going to do?
No, it's just licensed. It's just business. I mean, they just come out and they make these statements. It's like it would be the equivalent of selling your car and then protesting that a guy's picking up hot chicks in your car that you used to own. You know what I'm saying, Eric?
Right. Oh, God.
I mean, at some point, Jack White's got to move on.
But you know what? I think he's happy about it. It's like, oh, they're using my song, and now I have a reason to come out and get headlines.
Right. Well, I think that's the whole story of relevancy there. I mean, didn't Michael Jackson buy back his songbook, or one of them sold it and bought it back? I don't know if it was Paul McCartney or Michael Jackson.
Well, Michael Jackson bought the Beatles.
Right, I'm not talking about that. Somebody sold their songs and then bought it back later. I forget who it is.
Might have been Michael Jackson.
I think it might have been Michael Jackson.
I think but there was a war with him and McCartney, though, because I think McCartney wanted to buy it back and Jackson wouldn't sell it to him, too. So there's some stuff in there.
Again, these are lawyers. Michael Jackson had a secret room to let the children in up at his palatial digs. I don't think he was concerned about his publishing.
Oh, I don't know what he was.
Yeah, I think he had other things that he was into other than the royalties on his publishing. I had a
Nick,
friend who did it.
There, you want to talk about literal here? Nick saying, "I meant Jack White in the chat." So see, there you go.
No,
Somebody else
I
is
know, but
literal.
that's the same exact name, Jack. We don't know. We're kidding about Jack White, but I'm not kidding about Michael Jackson because I had a friend who did an intervention on him. He was addicted to phenobarbital, and I had a drug counselor friend who did an intervention on him, and there was a secret door in his bedroom that opened up like a half door, and it went into a children's room off of his main bedroom in the amusement park house that he lived in.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I mean, well,
I'm sorry.
I'll be interested to hear, more about him.
On Wednesday, we'll be talking about with Steve Gibb, who had Michael Jackson as a babysitter for a while. Somehow we'll talk about it on Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern on What's Up with Lord Buckley.
And then yesterday, I just published an interview with Nathan Livingstone. If you want to check that out, if you want to learn more about, hold that thought. If you want to learn more about Andrew Tate and his brother and what happened with them, you could check that interview out. And I accidentally hit my keyboard.
Okay.
So,
I was going to say goodbye. Goodbye.
We're going to say goodbye here now. That was a little bit jarring, a little bit sudden.
Sorry, now I'm on the spectrum. I feel spectrumy.
Well, yeah, it's really nice that you get to read your own chats now in the show. So, anyway, we are heading over to locals. Again, link in the description. Hopefully you'll follow us over there, and we'll be hanging out and talking to people there. So see you soon.